Good afternoon, all. My name is Ashleah Edwards, and I represent the 4th Judicial Circuit on the Florida Bar Young Lawyers Division Board of Governors. I'm often asked, what does the YLD or Young Lawyers Division do? And simply put, we're the workhorse of the Florida Bar. We work hardest for our members who are young attorneys in the state of Florida. And we do our best to advocate, educate, and serve Florida's young lawyers. Some of the examples of this over the last few years include producing all of the basic continuing legal education credits that young lawyers are required to take in their first 3 years of practice, and that includes practicing with professionalism. We've created a website which is called startmyfloridalawfirm.com to help young lawyers learn the tools they need to start their own law firm. And in January, we launched the Florida YLD Legal Accelerator website, which is a one-stop hub for young lawyers to get answers to many common questions they'll encounter as they transition into the practice of law. And that's only a small fraction of the work that the YLD actually does. And we're your voice within the Florida Bar, so please make sure to share your ideas and opinions on topics important to you with your local YLD representative, or you can reach out to myself as well. And you can also visit our website at flayld.org. Now today, we are lucky enough to have with us George Felos, who will be presenting a CLE on meditation for lawyers. And before George begins, I'd like to tell you a little bit about him. A native New Yorker and Florida resident since 1977, George is best known for his work as the lead attorney in the Terry Schiavo case, a multi-year legal and political struggle to end the artificial feeding of a vegetative young woman. Prior to Schiavo, he argued the landmark case establishing an individual's constitutional right to refuse or discontinue unwanted medical treatment. In that case, decided by the Florida Supreme Court in 1990, permitted the removal of unwanted feeding tubes without court order. A fierce advocate of patient choice, George's cases are the subject of numerous published appellate decisions. And since 1991, George has been a patient volunteer with the Hospice of the Florida Suncoast, Inc., the largest nonprofit hospice in the world. He served on its board of directors for 9 years, from 1996 to 1998. He served as the board chair and provides pro bono legal help to hospice patients and their families. He was also a founding member of the National Legal Advisors Committee on Choice in Dying. He also served as a director on the executive committee for Project Grace, a charitable organization dedicated to professional and lay education in end-of-life planning. George has led seminars, spoken, debated, or lectured on end-of-life issues for various professional, civic, and religious groups. He attended Gettysburg College, received a cum laude Bachelor's of Arts from Queens College, and a Juris Doctor degree from Boston University School of Law. He's certified to practice in the state of Florida, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and in other various federal courts. A classic pianist, yoga teacher, meditation instructor, leader of personal growth seminars, and guest minister to various churches in his spare time, George resides in Dunedin, Florida. We are excited to have George here with us today, and we've reserved a few minutes at the end of the presentation for questions, but also feel free to ask questions throughout the presentation. And without further ado, here is George Felos on meditation for lawyers.
Welcome everyone to Meditation for Lawyers. If you thought you were signing up for mediation for lawyers, this is not mediation for lawyers, but you're certainly welcome to spend the hour with us. If you thought you were signing up for medication for lawyers, I'm sorry to disappoint you, although if you stick with us for the hour, perhaps we'll generate a few extra endorphins. I want to thank the Young Lawyers Division for sponsoring this webcast, and particularly to Ashleah Edwards, who has done so much work on this. I'd also like to thank Will Mickle, who is my assistant and IT person. Thank you, Will. And thank you all for attending. If you're a little hungover this morning from late night election viewing, we welcome you. If your candidate won and you're happy, we welcome you. If your candidate lost and you're sad, we welcome you. If you're just stressed out from the last 6 months of politics, this is the place for you to be. And for our few friends in Canada joining us, if you're thinking, what are those crazy Americans up to these days, you are very welcome. Our goal today, number one, is for you to relax and enjoy yourself. The second goal is we hope at the end of this program that you'll learn enough about meditation that if you set aside 10 minutes a day or 15 minutes a day or decide to meditate, start a meditation practice, you'll learn enough today to do that and feel comfortable doing that. I wanted to talk a little bit about our format. This is a 1-hour webcast. We do have 10 extra minutes of time for questions at the end, so if we do run over, you're welcome to stay with us for that extra time. I can't see you. I don't believe you can see me, which made it very easy. I didn't have to think too carefully what to wear today, but if you're curious, that old bald guy is me on the screen. Although perhaps to me I'm slightly less old and bald as that photo may reveal. We're going to be meditating in segments. So if anyone's worried that we're just going to sit down and meditate for 40 minutes straight, we're not going to do that. We'll meditate in segments of, let's say 5 to 7 minutes. The segments will be preceded by instruction, and also during the meditation, I might give you some pointers and guidance. During the meditation, if I ask you a question, it's not a question that you have to write down or think of answering later. It's more something to reflect upon during the meditation. As Shalia mentioned that you can write questions, and we do have, we will receive your questions. My suggestion would be to write your questions not during the actual meditation session, but during the breaks in between sessions. We did receive one question already, which I thought maybe was a good question to start with, and that is there anyone particularly suited to meditation? Is any age group or personality type or gender better suited to meditation? And the answer is absolutely not. Meditation, to use an analogy, is like poker. The only thing you have to bring to a poker table is money. And you can sit with the best poker players in the world and enter any tournament. It's the same thing in meditation. The currency you bring to the table here is interest. As long as you have an interest in doing this, then meditation is for you and is suited for everyone. If we don't have time at the end of the session for all questions, I'll try to respond by email. And if you have a question that arises after we're done today, please email me or call me. Now, I hope you're all in a relatively quiet place without distraction. If you have a cell phone, please turn it off if you can. If you have an assistant, ask them to hold your calls. If you have a sub sandwich there and you were planning on eating during our hour, obviously we won't know whether you do or don't. But my suggestion is to put that aside and devote your time to the meditation. Before we start, also, I want to talk about your outer posture. We'll talk about an inner attitude and posture later. I suggest that you sit and with your spine relatively straight. And there's no magic or mystical reason for that. It's just when we lie down, our bodies are so associated with lying down and sleeping that there's a chance you could drift off. So sitting relatively straight up it's a good posture. Be comfortable. If you need to change your posture, change your sitting position, that's fine. Your hands, you can put them on your lap. You can fold your hands if you want to. I also suggest that you keep your eyes closed. And again, that's not necessary. You can certainly meditate with your eyes open, but when you're starting out, having your eyes closed minimizes distraction. So my advice is to keep your eyes closed and basically adopt an attitude of relaxed attention. You don't want to be under-relaxed because you tend to drift off into daydreaming and lethargy. And you don't want to be over-attentive because then you might start to strain and become tense. So it's like a camera lens. You can kind of you can go over or under that sweet spot, but where the sweet spot here is relaxed attention. I wanted to speak just a moment about why to meditate. The bar and its health and wellness program has certainly promoted meditation as well as other wellness programs. You all have read the articles and read the studies about how meditation promotes relaxation as a great stress management tool. I'm not going to talk much about that. But we're here to meditate. And it's like riding a bicycle. You can read all you want about how to ride a bicycle, but until you get on and start pedaling, you will never learn how. And it's the same with meditation. And I just wanted to mention to you from my personal experience, I've meditated most of my adult life, and I have found the great benefits. You heard from my resume, I've done some litigation that just had bone-crushing stress to it. And having a meditation practice stood me very well. But even if your law practice isn't particularly stressful, life brings up challenges when we least expect it. And having a practice that helps us deal in a healthy manner with what we encounter is valuable not only in the practice of law but life experience. And the old saying goes, you don't start digging the well when the house is on fire. So I was very grateful that I had an established meditation practice through some of the challenges that I've had, especially in my legal career. Lastly, and I don't want to speak too long, I want to get into the meditation. This is about your direct experience. You are the best judge of what you are experiencing. This is not about what you've read, what you've learned, what you believe, what I tell you, what anyone else tells you. It's about your direct experience. So I invite you to be like a scientist. Be open to the facts. It's like you're looking through a microscope and whatever's there, you're interested. You have a curiosity to look at what you're seeing. And lastly, this time you have dedicated for yourself, and it's up to you to make the most of it, and I will help you as best I can. So first, we're going to start with a body centering and relaxation. So slowly close your eyes. Be in a comfortable seated position. And first notice your heart beating. You may be aware of your heartbeat through the sensation of the muscles around your chest. You may notice it's beating fast, it's beating slow. There's no need to change anything, to do anything. You're just here noticing the heartbeat. Feel the sensation of the air on the back of your palms. Is it cool? Is it stagnant? Is it moving? Be right there, at that place where the air meets the skin on the back of your hand. Now feel the sensation of the soles of your feet against the ground. Again, there's no right way, there's no wrong way. There's nothing to do, there's just feeling the sensation. It may feel a little tingly, dense, light. Now notice if you hear any sounds. It may be the sound of the air conditioner. If you're in an office, some sounds outside. Again, nothing to comment on, nothing to think about, nothing to judge. They're just sounds. They're just like clouds passing through the sky. Feel the muscles of the face, the muscles of the cheeks. The little muscles below the eyes, the eye sockets, the eyeball itself. If thoughts come up, that's fine. Just notice them pass by. No need to become involved. Now notice your breath. No need to change it or alter it. You might feel the muscles of the belly kind of contract and push out as the diaphragm expands and relax as it recedes. You might feel the sensation of the air as it enters the nostrils. Nothing to do, your body can breathe just fine on its own. And now let's go back. Let's go back and just look at the heartbeat again. And just notice if there's any change from when you first sat down and started to notice. Okay, and slowly open your eyes. And just notice how just a few minutes, that was 4.5 minutes, how just a few minutes of attention has changed how you feel. So, what are we interested in this meditation? And as I was preparing for this and thinking of that, the word authenticity came up. We value authenticity. If you've ever tried a case before a jury, you know you're not going to do very well if you try to put one over on them. They can they can sense authenticity. We can sense the authenticity of others. There's a truth to it. And so part of being authentic is being who you are. And there's a relaxation, a relief in being who you are. Because you don't have to do anything to be yourself. You don't have to fake anything. It's your default position, your default status. There's no pretense. And I like to call pretense, if you're looking at your slides here, pretense is the preamble to tension. Because, number one, when we're pretending to be what we're not, we're expending more energy, and there's also a insecurity or anxiety about being discovered that you're pretending to be what you're not. Now, that's not to say that we don't play different roles. I'm a father, a lawyer, a husband, a businessman. We all have different roles in life, and they're fun playing them. But there's a difference between putting the jacket on and playing a role and wearing the jacket and enjoying it, and becoming so identified with the jacket that we believe that that is who we are. And so in our society, we value authenticity so much that, as Shakespeare said, "To thine own self be true." And in common parlance, if we want to update that 400 years, it's get real. So we've got authenticity, truth, real. What's real? And I'm just going to put out a couple definitions that one could give. That real is that which cannot not exist. Or another one is that which doesn't change. Is there anything in our experience that always exists and doesn't change? Now, we're going to do our next meditation to look at the things that do change, because we are so intimately familiar with those things. And the things that do change in our field of experience are, if you look at the screen, our bodily sensations, a pain in the leg, our little toothache, sense perceptions, which of course is what we perceive through sight, hearing, touch, smell, and taste, and thoughts. And those thoughts, by the way, kind of track the sense perceptions, and then our thoughts can be visual, they can be oral, they can be tactile, they can be olfactory. So those are the three things that we experience, we're familiar with, we know they change, and in our next meditation, we're going to take a look at them perhaps in a different way. So again, be in a comfortable position. With your eyes closed, kind of fall into that relaxed attention. And again, without changing anything, without commenting, manipulating, we're just looking. And what is in our field of attention? You might feel the sensation of your arms on your lap, bodily sensation. You may have the thought, Why am I doing this? It's just a thought. You may hear a sound in the background. It's just a sense perception. Just kind of relax into, fall into whatever's playing on the screen here. Heaviness of the upper lip, bodily sensation. People chatting outside, hearing, sense perception. Am I doing this right? Am I doing this wrong? Just thoughts. Just notice that everything in your field of view is one of those three things. For me, sound outside, sense perception, image of a plane, thought, just a sense perception, generating a thought. That's all it is. Now this may feel overwhelming in that somebody took your thoughts and sensations and sense perceptions and put them in a blender and pressed puree. They may be spinning a mile a minute. That's okay, just relax into the background. Imagine that these transient apparitions are like fireworks going off in the night sky. They're big, bright, and bold. They explode and then they wither away. They're here, they're gone. Just kind of feel in a way, like rather than being pulled towards those objects, you're the night sky. You really don't care, it really doesn't matter what thought arises, what bodily sensation you feel, what sense perception you experience. It's just one after another after another. And see if you can feel relaxed in the midst, if it's busy. If it's busy, if it's swirling, just notice you can be relaxed in that. If it's quiet, if it's peaceful, if not much is arising, you can be relaxed in that. The thought came from nowhere. It wasn't there, it arose, it exists, and then it dissolves, it's gone. Be the sky in which all these objects, all these transient objects are just passing through. Right now, there's no place to go. There's nothing you have to do. If you have a thought of what you're going to do later, it's just a thought. That'll pass like the thought before it and the thought that will come after it. and slowly open your eyes. We're about a half hour in, and we've been sitting for a bit. So if you'd like, you can just stand up and just slowly allow your arms to raise, as if a balloon, helium balloon, were just raising your arms. Bring your palms together. Just stretch the body up. Maybe stretch from side to side. You might turn your body or twist a little bit. I knocked my water over. Hopefully you'll do better. And imagine that you're a starched shirt and the sleeves are hollow. And just let them flop from one side to another. Move your shoulders from forward to back, from back to forward. Okay. Let's sit down again. The question we ask now is, what is it that knows the thoughts, the bodily sensations, and sense perceptions that we so readily and intimately experienced? In between each thought, if there's a space between the thought or a space between the succession of objects, is there nothing? Did you cease to exist in between each thought or each perception? What is it that knows those objects? And we're going to give it a name so we can talk about it. And it reminds me of a story of a survey or questions that 4th and 5th graders were asked about science and the natural world. And they were asked, one 5th grade boy was asked, what's a vacuum? And he said, a vacuum is nothing, but we give it a name so it knows that we know it's there. So sometimes we have to name something to be able to talk about it, and the name that we're going to give that which knows the objects that appear before us is awareness. Now we could give it other names. You could call it presence. You could call it I suppose you can call it, different traditions have different names for it. The here, now, present. We'll call it awareness for purpose of discussion. So in our next 2 segments, what we're going to be interested in is awareness. We're here to explore that awareness which knows a thought, which knows a bodily sensation, which knows a sense perception. Now, I mentioned to you when we talked about the outer posture, we were going to talk about the inner posture. And this is an attitude in meditating which facilitates and helps to explore and experience that awareness. The first is a posture of non-interference. And we've kind of hinted at that so far in our hour. But what I mean by non-interference is, interference is judging, commenting upon. You have a thought of the judge ruling in your favor. Well, you like that. You like that thought. Boy, I hope that happens. That's judging, commenting, or it can be something in the reverse. So our constant need to evaluate, comment, dissect, especially among us, because that's what we're trained to do. This is what we do endlessly and we find difficult to stop doing when we don't want to do it anymore, like when we're home. So judging, commenting, evaluating is one way of interfering. So we want to adopt the posture of non-judgment, non-comment. Now, you'll say, how can I possibly do that? Judgment's going to come up, comment's going to come up, and that's fine. Then my advice would be, don't judge the judgment. If you have a thought that's judgmental, it's just a thought. Don't judge the judgment. Don't comment upon the comment. Our likes and dislikes, our attraction and aversion is also a form of interference. Projecting into the future, looking at the past, those are forms of interference. The best way to see clearly and to experience that awareness in non-interference, through non-interference, is letting things be. And you'll see there a picture of 3 jars. And the one on the left is full of sediment. It's murky, you can't look through it. The sediment is beginning to settle in the middle. And on the right, the sediment has fallen, and you can see there's a clarity. You can see the grass behind the jar. So there's nothing we can do other than letting it be, than non-interfering, to let the sediment settle. If you take a strainer or a stick and put it in the jar on the left to try to push the sediment down, it just makes it more agitated. So the first posture is non-interference, an internal attitude. The second one we'll call welcoming, or we can call it benign indifference. And I'll use a couple of metaphors for that. A mirror welcomes everything that's put before it. If a blue vase is put in front, it doesn't say, wow, I love reflecting blue, and then a pink one is put and said, man, I don't like reflecting pink. It's an indifference to whatever is put before it, it reflects. So that's the welcoming point. And another analogy is like a TV screen. A TV screen is, you don't notice it when the show is on, and it could be playing a horror slasher movie or a romance or a war movie. The screen doesn't care whether there are bombs going off the screen or there's a pretty couple kissing. It welcomes everything that's a part of it. And in a way, in this attitude of non-interference and welcoming, in this next meditation, we're asked to be the screen, to be the screen, and let anything that appears just appear on it without judgment, without comment, and welcome everything that comes on it. I think that's about as much as I can say about it. So let's sit down again in a comfortable posture. Close your eyes. And just sink into that relaxed attitude. It's as if the screen is the background, and the objects appearing are the foreground. We're not trying to get rid of anything in the foreground. We're just putting a little bit more attention on the background. If there are thoughts, sensations, perceptions floating around, appearing now and then, imagine just they're fish swimming in a fish tank. The only difference is you're the water in which they're swimming. Let's relax into that. You don't care whether the fish swim up or down, fast or slow. And notice something about this awareness. Is the place that you're aware of a thought, if we can call it a place, somewhere else or different than from when you hear a sound? Listen to a sound. Experience where that sound is really heard. Where is it that sound is known? Is it any different than from where the sensation of your foot on the floor is felt? Is there a different awareness that knows thoughts as opposed to sounds? Or is it one? Is it one awareness? Whatever that is, whatever word we can give it, just fall into it. Our thoughts and perceptions and sensations, they're not our enemies. They're not impediments to meditation. They're not impediments to being who we are. Because we are who we are naturally all the time. It's just a slight shift of focus. And whatever this awareness is, we're interested in it. We spend so much of our time attached to and dealing with and acting upon the objects of our awareness. Kind of forget who we are naturally. Take this time to remember. If you feel confused, what knows that you're confused? How can you say, I'm confused? How is it known? And does that part of you who knows you're confused at all? Whatever you may be feeling or experiencing. If you're feeling sad, does that which knows and experiences the sadness sad itself? Or is it like the screen or the mirror, just welcoming everything that comes before it? Okay, slowly open your eyes. Take a deep breath. We have time for one more segment. It'll be a short segment, about 5 minutes, and then we'll have about 10 minutes for questions, and we'll close, and then anyone who wants to spend a little bit more time answering questions, if we have some, can stay with us. In this next meditation segment, I'm going to ask you, we'll do two things. We'll start off and we'll imagine that awareness is like a little bird. And whenever we become aware of an object, if the bird lands on it, which means it wants to explore or comment or interfere, we'll just take off. As soon as we land, we'll take off, and the object of this little exercise will be to keep the awareness bird flying and in free flight. We'll do that for a couple minutes, and then I'm going to ask you some questions about the nature of the awareness you experience, and just let the questions resonate and see what comes to you. Okay, you're doing great. This is our last meditation segment. Close your eyes gently. Sit up straight. Take a deep breath in and out. Just imagine that awareness is a little bird that's flying. It's just flying free. It's in the air. It may see some objects in the distance. Not interested in them. Doesn't need to land. If there's a thought that's predominant, just imagine the bird. Oh, it's standing on the thought. Don't need to stay there. Just take off. Just takes off again as in flight. Feel how free it is. Just for the awareness to be in flight and not dwell on any particular object. There's a sensation that catches my attention. I don't need to explore it. I don't need to discover why it's there and how I can get rid of it. All I need to do is just take off. Just take off. Just let it be. Let it pass away. If you're wondering what you're going to do when the seminar's over, just take off. No need to poke around that thought. Just take off, just fly. Just be the space in which all that is happening appears. Whatever that space is, we don't have to know what it is. We gave it a name, awareness. Just be that awareness. Relax into that awareness. Now, does this awareness have any boundaries? Is there a place that this awareness isn't? Can you find a limit to this awareness? Is the awareness red? Is it blue? Certainly colors appear in it. Does this awareness have a color? Does it have a shape? Does it have a texture? That which knows, that which exists, that which is real, does it have any qualifying characteristics? Does this awareness, is it American? Is it Mexican? Does it have any nationality? Is it Christian or Hindu or Muslim or Jewish or any other religion? Just feel, be in that awareness, rest in that awareness. And the last question, does this awareness have a gender? Can you say it's male, it's female, or any other gender if there is another gender? Are there any objective qualities that you can impress upon this awareness? We'll take just another 1 or 2 minutes just to remain in silence in this awareness. Okay, slowly open your eyes. Take a deep breath. Before questions, I have a couple closing comments. If you like this, if you're interested in this, if this resonated with you, try this on a daily basis. The segments that we did were, the longest one I think was 6 minutes. So even if you do this on a daily basis, no one's that busy where you can't spare 5 minutes, 5 or 10 minutes. Try it. Try it. And something happens when you, like any skill, you become more adept at this. Meditation is a little bit of a skill, a little bit of an art form that continuation and practice helps. You can contact me with any questions. You know my website, my email, my phone number. If you have any questions about meditation, your meditation practice, please call me. This is also our first webcast, and so I would really appreciate your feedback. If there's anything that really worked for you, I'd like to know. If there's something that didn't work for you, please let me know. If there's a way we can better serve you, please let me know. Also, I wanted to mention that this program can be given in segments of 1, 2, or 3 hours for 1, 2, or 3 CLE credits. And I noticed for those people signed up, there were some people from state attorney's office, public defender's office, larger law firms, especially our governmental entities that are so overworked and sometimes understaffed, have tremendous caseloads, tremendous stress levels. If you're at all, if you found this of value and you'd like to have this presented at your organization, please let me know. So we have, that's all that are my closing comments. Thank you all. You've been great explorers this hour, and I'll start with some questions. And as I mentioned, we do have until 1:10 to stay on if there are more questions than time allows. Okay. Wow. Now, one question we have here is, they're asking the difference between meditating in a group and meditating individually, and are they equally as effective? There is a little difference in meditating in a group. It's almost like we've had today over 200 people meditating together, and there is a qualitative difference meditating in a group. And so if you know of like-minded people who are interested in meditation, or there's a meditation group near you, I encourage you to try it. And there are different techniques, forms of meditation. Again, you may feel drawn to one and not another, so it's good to investigate as well. But I would encourage meditating in a group. We have a question: do some judges meditate? Well, if I'm ever nominated and appointed to be a judge, the answer would be yes. Although at this stage of my legal career, I'm not interested in that, and that's not going to happen. Yes, I believe some judges do meditate. And how does meditation affect their effectiveness as judges? I'm speculating, since I'm not a judge, although I was an arbitrator for what used to be NASDAQ and what is now FINRA now for security arbitrations for many years. One of the qualities that we hope a judge has is equanimity, to remain balanced and open, and not form immediate conclusions as cases and matters are presented to them. And I think, and you can tell from some of the meditations that we did today, that they promote a feeling of equanimity, a feeling of balance, and being grounded and familiar with that natural inner balance makes it harder for us to be knocked off balance by the occurrences in life, I believe. So if there are any judges out there, I encourage you to meditate. Okay, should meditation be done before or after mediation, or just every day? I'm not sure exactly what that question is. I meditate pretty much on a daily basis, and there are a lot of times and days I don't. If I'm busy, if I have to be in court at 8 a.m., I'm not a morning person. I'm not going to get up extra early and meditate. I swim about 5 times a week. I often meditate as I swim. So you can meditate doing just about anything and being anywhere. So again, we talked about doing it on a daily basis, which I would recommend. Someone says, "Thank you so much for doing this for us. I have been slacking on my meditation lately and really needed this." Well, you're very, very welcome. I appreciate that. Okay, can you please mention your website again? My website is meditationforlawyers.org. Again, that's meditationforlawyers.org. Someone has a comment, very relaxed. Glad to hear that. Are there apps or recordings that you recommend to lead people through meditation exercises similar to what you have done in this webcast? Yes, there are many. I'm sure there are numerous meditation exercises somewhat like this, or, well, let's call them meditation exercises online. This, by the way, this webcast will be available to you in about 30 days, I believe. It will be posted on the Young Lawyers, the YLD website. If any of you want to listen to this specific one, I'm happy to send you the link, but I'm told it will be the recording of this. Also, if there is if there's a request or people would like me to record something and have it available online on our website, I'm happy to do that as well. But there's a lot out there if you have the interest. Okay. Next question: do you have to be in a sitting position to meditate? The answer is no. The meditation we did is a little bit, it's kind of an artificial experiment, because obviously you can't live your life unless you're a monk, just seated in a quiet space meditating. So you can experience that which knows, the awareness which is aware of all objects at any time, at any place, in any situation. But as a practice, as a learning device, when you can do it in an atmosphere where you're not distracted, it's very helpful. Next question: does it matter if I cannot feel my heart beating? No, it doesn't matter. I would gather that you are alive. Even though you can't feel your heart beating, you ask this question, and so you're okay. I just use that as one technique to tune into bodily sensations, and so no, it doesn't matter whatsoever if you can't feel your heart beating. Very nice meditations, thank you. You're very welcome. Is there a best time of day to meditate? I prefer the morning. I meditate in, let's say, a sitting meditation posture. I've done it all times during the day. I prefer the morning for this reason, and it's just a practical reason, is that once I get going in the day, once I sit down online and, I read a couple emails that maybe I ought to respond to them now, and then I have this appointment. Once I get going, I find that it's hard to get back, just practically speaking, to meditating because I've already kind of moved into the day. So I prefer the morning to do it before I really get moving. That works for me. Okay, what is a good breathing technique? And the meditation that we did really doesn't call for any breathing technique. There are a lot of meditation techniques. There's focusing on the spot between your eyebrows, focusing on the sensation of the air going in and out of the nostrils, focusing on the diaphragm rising and falling. I would call those concentration techniques. And what we're interested here is not becoming a master of the breath per se. What we're interested here is awareness, in experiencing awareness. And so we really don't need a breathing technique in which to do that. Now, if you're in martial arts or doing yoga or something else, and you need a breathing technique, there are many available for you, but that's really not the focus here. How long in the beginning did it actually take you to achieve productive meditation? Well, to the person who wrote that, if this was the first time you meditated today and you felt relaxed at any time, then I would say you achieved productiveness. People have an idea, and this is important. People have the idea that meditation means stopping my mind, stopping my thoughts. That is not the purpose of meditation. It's not that your thoughts can't stop, and your thinking can't slow down and subside and stop, but that's not the purpose of meditation, because you can't live life without your thoughts. We probably don't need 90% of them, but you have to remember to pay your electric bill and pay your mortgage. There's nothing wrong with thinking. What we're trying to do is, while we're thinking, while we're feeling, while we're doing, to at the same time be aware of who we are and that which knows. And so I would say that you can, this is not, in a way it's simple, and in a way it's subtle, but you can be very productive just starting and doing. Another one, great presentation, was able to achieve a much more relaxed state. Thank you, you're very welcome. Okay, next one. I think we have, the buzzer's going to come in about a minute. Do you ever suggest meditation to your clients or meditate with your clients before stressful proceedings? I've known some of my clients for 40 years, and some of them are good friends. And in that context, perhaps, where there's that leeway, somebody may say, hey, George, you seem really relaxed. And I'll say, well, why is that? If somebody expresses an interest, I might mention meditation, but I don't volunteer it. I've never meditated with a client before stressful proceedings. But I think I have done, especially before trial, before we're walking into court. I might say, hey, let's just sit down. Let's just sit down for a moment and relax a bit, take a deep breath. And I may have said that in that way. I find if people express an interest in this, then yes, I'm happy to volunteer. Question. And Ashley, it is 1:10, so I'm going to rely on you to tell me when we have to stop.
Of course. I see that we have, we've got quite a few more questions. So I would say let's go till about 1:15 because we still have about 175 people on. So I'd say 1:15, 1:20, and whoever wants to drop off, if they've got other engagements, they can do that. Otherwise, we can address everything left over after 1:20 via email.
Great. Okay. Thanks. Do you receive divine messages while meditating? To answer that, you'd have to ask what's divine, and I'll leave that. That gets more into the spiritual belief of each individual. When we were asking the questions about what awareness is, does it have a form? Does it have a color? Does it have a limit? Does it have a gender? I would say many people have an intuition. Intuitions arise from consciously being in awareness. I'll leave that to someone else how to label them. Okay, we had a suggestion here, a helpful one, thank you. I really enjoyed this session, and for type A personalities, it might be better to go through some of the benefits prior to jumping straight in. So thank you for that, I appreciate it. What is the awareness, what does the awareness look like to you? Because the awareness has no objective qualities, and looking is a product of the senses, we really can't say that awareness looks like anything, because it's not an object. I will say, though, that, and they say, well, how can you even know that you're experiencing awareness if it's not an object, if it has no observable qualities? And the answer that I can give is there's an after effect. That for me, when I'm experiencing awareness, if that's the right word, there's a calmness that I feel in the body. There's a peace that I feel. There's a happiness. There's no particular cause for the happiness, the peace, the calmness, but it's just there. But it's important to recognize that the calmness I recognize in the body is a bodily sensation. The body may feel very, very relaxed, and those are objects that I become aware of. And what I'm saying is, those may be for me, those are signals that I was experiencing awareness, because those are the after effects of it. I hope that answer wasn't too obtuse there. But that's the best I can do, because awareness doesn't look like anything because it's not an object. Okay, we have another question about online resources. The realness of Shakespeare's "To thine own self be true" seems very different from the realness of awareness and meditation. Am I missing something? That's a hard question to answer, because I don't know how you would explain the difference between the two. But when I say, and I think when Shakespeare said "to thine own self be true," he didn't mean true to my concepts, true to my belief systems, true to my opinions, true to the constructs of my personality. I think he was talking about being true to what precedes that. Because everybody in the world believed 600 years ago the world was flat, and now they don't believe it. Even the most cherished belief systems and ideas and concepts can change. So that's not the realness or truth that I think Shakespeare was talking about, at least in my opinion. With much of our sedentary work life in the legal practice, do we see a value or connection between meditation and yoga, combination or joint use? Yes. The reason I started doing yoga it was in my first year of law school. And first year of law school, as we all know, is very stressful. And a buddy said, "Hey, there's a yoga class at Boston University Fridays at 4 o'clock. And I started doing yoga. And as a result of doing yoga, I started meditating about 6 or 8 months after that. So I think yoga is an excellent way also to relax. It's also a way to there's an equanimity that can be found in yoga through connection with the body. So I do recommend that. Question. And I may be skipping in questions because some questions are kind of long and they are very complex and we only have a couple minutes. Is it impossible for some people to meditate, or does it just take more practice? If you have the interest to meditate, then it's not impossible. And certainly, if you find it difficult at first, there is help. There are meditation instructors. There are programs like this. Some people, if they don't have the interest, then it might not be possible. Or sometimes it takes a little bit of courage, because you're entering into an area that may not be particularly familiar to you. I mean, I've known a couple people in my life who were afraid to close their eyes while awake because it was too unsettling for them. It may not be possible for them to meditate. But as long as you have an interest in it, it is certainly possible, and practice does help. Meditating makes me feel sleepy at times. How can I meditate in a way that helps me feel more awake and energized? Well, one is you can choose the time of day that you're naturally most awake. Another way is what we did today. About halfway through, I halfway through, we got up, we stretched a little, we moved, we took some deep breaths. So that's one thing you could do. You might do a little of that type of physical exercise before you start meditating. Another way is when you begin to feel sleepy, to explore a little bit what that sleepiness really is. Is it a physical fatigue? Is there a bodily sensation? Is there a bodily sensation of fatigue? Is there just the thought that I'm sleepy? If you put a little attention into, or dissect a little bit, what that sleepiness looks like and feels like, you might find that if you make the sleepiness the object of your meditation for a little bit, then you may feel more energized. Okay, everyone. Our past time, it's 1:21. Thank you so much for your feedback. It is much appreciated. I hope we meditate again soon sometimes. And Ashleigh, thank you very much.
Well, George, thank you so much for taking an hour and a half almost of your time today to really go through and teach us all about meditation, because as it sounds from some of the questions, as attorneys, we need it more frequently than we probably realize. So thank you again, and thank you for everyone tuning in to listen today as well. As George stated, this webinar will be up on our Florida Bar YLD website, and you should receive an email shortly with the CLE information. It should also be on your screen while you were watching the webinar today. And then if you have any questions, please feel free. I'm open. George sounds like he is open to answer any follow-up questions that you might have. So thank you again for tuning in, and we hope you tune into our next Health and Wellness webinar, which is next week, and it is involving sleep and how important sleep is. And that one will be next Wednesday, November 14th at noon as well. So thank you all again, and we look forward to seeing you again in our next webinar. Have a great afternoon.